Hey there, guys and gals. Welcome to another hopefully insightful and inspirational episode of Discipleship with Blankenship. This is my second take filming this particular talk. The first one was pretty long and said a lot of things that I wondered if I really wanted to say them. You're thinking right now, man, this has got to be good. It's getting better for you because I'm going to start it with a disclaimer. Woo. This episode is not particularly aimed towards any individual minister or any individual denomination from my own personal experience, nor from another, nor have I been provoked into doing this based upon anything by that. My steps are ordered by the Lord, and I've had this on my heart. There are an overwhelming, mind-shattering amount of videos on toxic pastors, on toxic leadership, narcissistic pastors, all this sort of thing. There's a book that was written by Michael Krueger, who teaches at a seminary, called Bully Pulpit, where he talks about all those sorts of things. He said, unlike any other topic that he talks about, that it's really interesting when he goes out and he starts saying things like these people have read from the same playbook. They feel like the individuals hearing it feel like, is he talking about my church? It's a bad thing. Are there a lot of scriptures about bad leadership in the Bible? You better believe it. We've got it in the Old Testament. We've got it in the New Testament. We've got it all over the place. We have false apostles, false prophets, false teachers, false preachers coming as ministers of God and angels of light and all that sort of thing. We have had the Gentile authorities would domineer over other people, but Jesus said that if you're actually going to follow me, this is what Christendom is. If you're actually going to follow me, then you need to be a servant, and whoever's going to be the greatest among you is going to be like a slave. That's what Jesus Christ went ahead and said, okay? So there's a lot of scripture on the topic. I'm just going to go ahead and quote a passage from one particular segment of that. First Peter chapter number 5 verses 1 through 4. First Peter chapter number 5 verses 1 through 4. This is Peter addressing the elders, the administrators of the church. The elders which are among you I exhort, who am also an elder. He's saying, I'm like y'all, I'm an elder too, and a witness of the sufferings of Christ. That's even more hardcore. And also a partaker of the glory that shall be revealed. That's where he's coming from. Feed the flock of God which is among you, take the oversight thereof. Here's the part: not by constraint, but willingly, not for filthy lucre, but of a ready mind, neither as being lords over God's heritage, so lording over people, don't do it, but being examples to the flock. And when the chief shepherd shall appear, ye shall receive a crown of glory that fadeth not away. So the Apostle Peter gives 3 points there, all preaching points, by the way, if you were breaking down a sermon there. 3 points about that. We are supposed to be examples as leaders. The difference between cattle and the difference between sheep is that cattle, that they are led from behind, they're driven. You poke and you prod at the cattle and you push them forward. Sheep are led by example. They follow you. You show them how to act. You be an example to them. You let them see Jesus Christ through you, or you've failed and you're doing it wrong. Not for filthy lucre, but of a ready mind, not by constraint, not by force, not you can never disagree with me, not in a toxic environment where you're setting people around you that only affirm what you're saying, that is a that's that kind of thing, that you've got yes men and you've got yes women around you, that you have uniformity and that you're pushing unity instead of chemistry, which is Bible, that because we're not all an eye, we're not all a nose, we're not all an ear, we don't all speak in tongues, we don't all prophesy. The things that we do within the church are complementary one to another. So you're utilizing people. You're not a pulpit hog that's hogging the microphone, so you've got the message like you ran to mom first so you can tell the story, and you're controlling the narrative. That's something that in video after video after video after video, people that have something systemically, psychologically wrong with with them that shouldn't be in leadership, that they constantly identify that that person has that going on. Does that mean that everybody that's a pulpit hog is a monster? No. Does that mean that everyone that has someone that's accommodating and inspirational, that's aligned around them, that there's some kind of a devil? No. Does that mean that somebody that has a close-knit group like their family, I mean, I had to do it, I pastored a small church, like their family, leading the worship and ladies auxiliary and whatnot, that there's some kind of a fiend? No. We do certainly have to have accountability. And if someone has no accountability, then there definitely is an issue. When you see a big turnaround in a church, there definitely is an issue. When you feel like you can't ask questions or be concerned about people, or it doesn't matter when somebody leaves because it's going to be promoting gossip, because and the people leaving are always being berated, that there's an issue. All of those are indicative to really foul stuff. In these videos, Michael Krueger, he actually, he sounds like an idealist like me. And I tell people the problem with being an idealist is that the world is an ideal. He talks about having review boards and review committees and having this thing and having another and having review committees for the review committee, and how that's a good thing, and that how that'll keep everything in line, and it'll keep checks and balances on everything. And the problem is that just doesn't really happen. I've been involved in three big organizations, okay? Church of God Mountain Assembly, Church of God Cleveland Assembly, Church of God Prophecy. I'm not going to sit here and take pot shots at them. But if you have someone that is in a high up position, and if they weren't doing their job, let's just imagine a scenario, not that I can't name like 20 or 30 or 50. But if they weren't doing their job, whatever that may be, and you go to the guy over their head, who their job before God Almighty is, ask a question, right? At least look into it, at least examine it. It does not happen. There's a reason why you've got people like Gospel of Kennison. I don't know if you know all about that. Bill Kennison, he's the brother of Sam Kennison. They're the comedian, formerly Pentecostal preacher. Their dad and other brother was a preacher as well. The Assembly of God, notably, according to them, it wouldn't be hard to prove, stole an orphanage that the daddy had paid for and built, stole a church and all that. Look, I've been in church all my life, but I've been raised in it. I know all kinds of stuff like that. The Church of God Cleveland Assembly, some particular people, according to them, it's on video. You can watch the YouTube video. Threatened his family like the mafia if you preach in any of our churches. Now, I know that sounds one-sided, and I don't know what the guy was saying, or I don't know what the guy was doing, but is there all kinds of like real corruption that goes on in church? Absolutely. And it makes people like that say, I just can't stand organized religion. There's a video that I watched about a young man, and he was talking about a pastor having an extramarital affair with a woman, and she had like an eating disorder, and she fell back into that and nearly died, like freaking out. And he's like, you can't tell this will hurt the ministry, this will destroy the church. And you're watching these videos, and it's like, why don't whistleblowers blow the whistle? And it's like, because it'll ruin their lives if they do it. And the guy's saying, the best thing to do really and truly is kind of just to leave, unless you want your life to be destroyed. And in this particular church where that one thing went on with that dude, by the way, I'm going to have a bunch of these videos like tagged below, so if you want to watch them, if this is something that you need to hear or look into given your situation, or you're just interested for study or what have you, it'll be there. But they finally, after 2 secular newspaper articles about the scandal in that church, removed the dude from his pastoral position. Yet he still went there, and he got tied in with several other ministers that didn't really know a lot about the situation, was trying to get reinstated. And then when they put him under church discipline, he went ahead and he started his own church. As a Christian, if you're supporting foul things like that, there's something wrong with you, and there will be come an account. We're not supposed to be fools. We're not supposed to be ignorant stuff. And I do know that there are some stupid people. I truly know that there's some stupid people out there, but there's some people that have some sense, and you need to have some sense, and you need to have some mind. And if something isn't above reproach or reproof or whatever, if it's not clean and kind of sterling, should you really, be involved with sitting? If there's a question, there's nothing wrong with asking a question. So yeah, there's a whole lot of material on that. But I mean, I just felt like this was something that I kind of at least needed to brush over, if not maybe do some more videos, breaking down stuff more specifically. I don't know. You can say what your comments are in the comment section. I oh man, I have stories that I could tell. Preachers are always saying, I could talk, but we don't have the time. I could write novels on the things that I know. There was this young hypocrite preacher who's probably now a hypocrite preacher, because most people don't change that much unless something dynamic happens. And based on where he was and what his station was in life and the things that he did specifically to me and other people, I don't really see that he's going to change. I didn't have the gift of discernment back then. He was an evangelist. I didn't I couldn't see that he was a snake. I worked like a $7 and change job there at the time, and I would go to these revival services that we would have at our church, and I was so excited that this dude even wanted to talk to me. I gave him like $400 offerings, and it's made his life a lot more comfortable on his way to hell. But he would act like I could confide in him, and there was another minister, and there was some stuff going on and everything, and so I would vent to him, and he would just turn around and he would tell that other minister what I had said when I had vented to him. So yeah, there's some real devils out there. But yeah, in these videos that they talk about preachers sniping people out from behind the pulpit. It's not me, it's the Lord. The Lord gave me this word, and they'll talk about something that's so specific that that they've got to be talking about somebody in the congregation, and just all kinds of foul stuff. And it's tragic because I can put names and I can put faces on these descriptions that I've heard. Thank God for Jennifer LeCLAIRE, who actually has classes and things like this where she was abused by leadership. Thank God for the lady that does apologetics, that was in ZOEgirl, that she has several videos and things where she talks about this. Thank God for Michael Krueger, who has written a book and gets up and teaches on this, because he says, that a lot of times what we look at is we look at people's ability within ministry when you're talking about in seminary and what have you. He said, really what you need to be looking at largely, though, is their character. And a lot of times churches, and you'll get this too, that they'll try to build a church around somebody's character. I don't necessarily think that that's a bad thing in and of itself. But they'll get like a business type person or a rock star type person or what have you. So it's cult of personality. And unfortunately, when that person leaves or whatnot, then it hurts the church. We have seen problems with that, because we've seen problems with different individuals. Like Lowell Hillsong, New York, had issues with that. That you've got a man that's going out being publicly intoxicated and cheating on his wife, but he's the pastor of this church. And let's just be real. This hipster preacher that they had, super dynamic guy. He seemed like the cool guy, but you don't really need the cool guy to be your pastor. You need the person that's living right. We're called to a higher standard, church. We need to get it together, and I want the best for y'all. And sometimes the best thing that you can do is walk away. Sometimes there's a time to mend a fence. Sometimes there's a time to burn a bridge. You really need to get with God and get in the spirit and get in his will and everything. But this is something that I don't really feel like is talked about enough. And if you don't like it, I question why and what's wrong with you. But it's really out there more than you know when you really get to hunting and looking, because there's a lot of this abuse that goes on. I used to really enjoy listening to Ravi Zacharias, and man, that ended bad. And there were people trying to tell the truth, but they were suppressed and they were put in on the fridge. They were the ones that saw that the emperor has no clothes, and they were told to sit down and to shut up. And that's an issue, and that's a problem with that. So I might do a few more videos on this. I don't think they'll be in discipleship with Blankenship, but they'll say what they are I hope that God touches you in your life, in your ministry. There are real people out there. It's not just a bunch of fakes and hypocrites. There would not be a counterfeit of something that there ain't real. So there are fantastic pastors and people out there, and you need to align yourself with people like that. You need to have a multitude of good counselors that care about you, that have it together, and have a circle built around you with that in ministry. I could really go off into a tangent and talk about personal intercession, because that's a thing that's almost never talked about. I might in another video, but not this one. I hope God touches you in your ministry.